All right, we're going to dig into two of the biggest terms in Islam today, Shirk and Sharia. But we're going to explore a connection between them, pulling it straight from the Quran that might just flip what you thought you knew on its head. Let's jump in.
So when you hear the word shirk, your mind probably jumps to worshiping idols, right? Polytheism. And when you hear Sharia, you probably picture a really rigid, ancient set of laws. But is that the full story? Is that what the Quran itself actually says? We're going to follow the textual evidence to see how these two concepts might be connected in a way you'd never expect.
Okay, so to get this connection, we first have to nail down one really important definition, and we have to get it right from the source. We need to unpack what the Quran actually means by shirk. So this is where most of us start. The conventional, everyday understanding of shirk is pretty simple. It's the sin of polytheism, worshiping idols or other gods besides the one God. This is the definition most of us grew up with. But if you look at how the Quran actually uses the word, the meaning is a whole lot deeper. It's not just about worship, it's about authority. See, the root of the word is about partnership or association. So in the Quran's context, shirk is the act of associating partners with God, especially by giving someone or something else the power to make up religious law. So what does that even look like? While the Quran gives a few clear examples. It could be just blindly following what your ancestors did. It could be making your own ego the final say. Or, and this is the real kicker for our discussion today, it could be taking religious scholars or leaders as lawgivers, obeying their religious rules as if they came straight from God. That act, following human-made religious law, is actually defined as a type of shirk. This verse from the Quran, 42:21, just gets right to the point. It's a rhetorical question, and it's a powerful one. It directly connects having partners, that's the root word of shirk, with people who legislate religious rules without God's permission. The link couldn't be clearer. Making up religious law is a form of shirk. Now, hold on to that thought. Okay, so now that we have this much clearer, source-based definition of shirk as unauthorized religious lawmaking, we can finally get to that provocative connection with Sharia. And here it is. This is the question that's at the heart of this whole explainer. If the Quran defines shirk as setting up human partners who make religious laws, what in the world does that imply about the huge body of work we all call Sharia law? This is a really crucial distinction to make. The word Sharia, as it's used in the Quran, just means the clear path, or the system that comes from God. But the system we call Sharia law is, well, it's something else. It's a vast body of human legal work built not only on the Quran, but on thousands of narrations, centuries of scholarly opinions, and other human sources. The real difference here is the source of authority. And this brings us to the central point, the main argument from the sources we're looking at. The argument is that when these extra human-derived sources are treated like legislative partners, when they're used to add to or change religious rules, this whole system actually fits the Quran's own definition of shirk from that verse we just saw, 42:21. It's a really challenging idea for sure, but it follows the Quran's own internal logic. Okay, so if the Quran is warning us against building these complex, human-based religious legal codes, then what's the alternative? What kind of principles does it actually give us for building a good and just society? The absolute number one principle, you see it again and again, is justice, adl. And it's a non-negotiable kind of justice. I mean, look at this verse. Let not the hatred of a people prevent you from being just. Your commitment to being fair has to be stronger than any personal bias, even against your enemies. The second pillar here is total freedom of conscience. You've probably heard this verse before, La ikraha fid din. Its message is crystal clear. You cannot force someone to believe. Faith is between a person and God. The government has absolutely no business compelling religious belief or practice. And third, the Quran puts forward this model of governance called shura, which just means consultation. The idea is that decisions affecting the whole community should be made by the community, by talking to each other. That's a world away from a top-down system where a special class of clerics gets to decide the laws for everyone else. Now, what's so fascinating is that these principles, justice, freedom, consultation, they aren't just some abstract religious wishes. The sources we're looking at argue that they are the actual building blocks for any rational, effective government. So, according to this model, making laws isn't about asking a cleric for a ruling. It's a totally practical, rational process. You see a problem in society, you go talk to the experts in that field, doctors for health policy, economists for financial policy, and then you use reason and evidence to make laws that create justice and serve the common good.
And this all leads to what's been called the convergence theory. The idea is simple. Any society that seriously tries to build a just system based on reason and expertise will naturally end up putting the Quran's core principles into practice. Good, rational government and Quranic guidance aren't two separate roads. They actually lead to the same destination, a society where people can thrive.
Now, that sounds great in theory, doesn't it? But is there any proof that this actually works? Can you even measure something like this out in the real world? Well, as it turns out, someone's trying to. It's called the Islamicity Index. It's an academic project that measures countries not by what religion they claim to have, but by how well their actual policies and institutions line up with core Quranic values, things like justice, economic opportunity, and basic human rights. And the results are pretty mind-blowing. The countries that consistently score the highest, the ones whose societies best reflect these Quranic principles, are places like New Zealand, Denmark, and Sweden. Meanwhile, a lot of the countries that officially say they're governed by Sharia law end up at the bottom of the list. The data really suggests that the substance of justice is way more important than the religious label you put on it.
And that brings us to the final question, the one we have to leave you with. What's the real goal here? Is it to stick a specific religious brand on a country? Or is it to actually build a society where all citizens can flourish, where there's justice and freedom and well-being? Based on the Quran's own principles, the answer seems pretty clear. Thanks for watching.